We're getting stronger today. We're getting better today. And by God, we may even have a good time. I'm not promising anything, but hell, I'm open for it. I don't know, Welcome into Fat Beans Coffee Lab. I am the Bean Man. This is actually a little bit of a tasting I've set up because we're going to be doing some tasting, and I'm gonna kind of give you a little spoiler here. We're going to be doing a lot of tasting over the next couple of months, because one of my major goals really for the next 12 or so months is to take my tasting skills and go ahead and bump those up from, humble dope who kind of self-taught himself to intermediate self-righteous moron. So come along with me as we take this journey. So what I'm kind of like plan is I've been taking just skims off of every roast I've been doing, and I'm just going to get really comfortable with tasting origins and looking for 3 specific notes. So today, the 3 notes that I'm really going to be looking for are trying to be able to pinpoint what the acidity is trying to do, if there's anything at all. I'm going to be looking for specific bittersweet notes as well as aftertastes. So that could be anywhere between sweetness and bittersweet, as well as any sort of aftertaste, whether it be like oats or grass, hopefully not, but also aftertaste that could be something like nutty, honey, vanilla. There's a lot of after notes that can exist in coffee. And then 4, I'm going to try to really come up with a unique mouthfeel and see if I can't start picking out some unique qualities about each coffee and start registering in my head, to kind of just start seeing how each coffee presents itself. I'm doing this for 2 phases. Like, what I'm focusing on getting better at is 1, being able to pick out unique qualities that exist in origin, specifically, different countries or regions of origin. And then 2, to start to expand my flavor palette. So becoming more mindful so I can start adding to this base, whether it be bittersweet or acidic, whatever that is, trying to add to that. So that is the challenge. So we got all of our equipment. We got our spoons, grinder, water, scale. We got our variable managements here. That is a El Salvador I've been kind of working on. And this is a Panamanian coffee I've been working on. So we've got 2 coffees, similar regions, and see if we can't come up with some descriptor words or something, try to do something. All right, so without further ado, first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to run some beans through my grinder. For lack of a better term, I'm just purging out the grinds, just trying to make sure what I'm putting in is actually what's coming out. And then I like to do about 8.2 grams plus or minus 1.1 gram coffee. So I'm gonna go ahead and just weigh out our coffee. We'll drop it in. We'll drop it in the old grinder. And you'll notice, if you've seen me cup before, you'll ask yourself, why is he using 2 cups? Well, that is a quick level up I did. Shows you the rookie level. I was just doing 1 cup, but you can have variations even between cup to cup. So this is a good way to also start to test your coffee for consistent flavors. Now, things like soap or an odd stinker bean could have some negative effects on the flavor. So that way, if you have 2, you're kind of hedging your bets. But also, their skill as a roaster, really specifically, is being able to taste the same cup of coffee and get the same kind of notes. And the more, that's just one of those things, the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. So I'm here for that life. All right, so let's start grinding. With our El Salvadorian first. Eight, 2 out. Okay. So plus or minus 1 holds standard. All of that. Put our trusty scale away for now. We've got our coffee. Mexico. Panama. We are going to put 150 milliliters by volume in all of our cups, and we're going to just let it sit for very nutty, mild, good sense on this. Panama, much more fruity. This is a medium light roast I did. So much more of a fruity note. So very nutty in the Mexico. Very fruity. Almost kind of like a mellow, like kind of like a mango aromatic on the Panamanian. Okay. We're also going to create ourselves a little hot water bath for our spoons. This will try to mitigate contamination, you know, best you can. And you got to have your spitter. Got to have a place to spit into, you know, fancy stuff. So the goal again today is just to get a better feel for my tasting chops. Now, I'm not going to try to be too bashful and say that I'm like a bad taster. I consider myself, for my training and how much time I've spent doing it, I feel like I'm pretty good. I've definitely built a foundation where I can build some understanding on. So in the world of scaffolding, I think I've got a really good foundation. So it's not that I'm just, you know, coming at it all willy-nilly and just, you know, just BSing my way through it. I have gotten to the point where I can pick out certain flavors. I've been practicing a lot of like saying different acidity, bittersweet, sweetness notes, going back to the bag and like being able to match it up with the bag. So all in all, I feel like I've got a good jumping off point. Now I just need to refine it. And there's a bunch of different skills that I can continue to work on. And, you know, I'll say it here first to make sure that there's some plane of accountability. But the plan is to join like I guess it would be a regional or qualifying or amateur coffee tasting competition within the next year. So if you're watching this and you want to hold the Bean Man's feet to the fire, go ahead and find me a competition. Hopefully it's within 1,000 miles, but I'll sign up and I'll go. Like that's a Bean Man guarantee. That way I can hold myself accountable to continue to taste coffee. Really at this point right now, I'm tasting it every single day. So I'll just continue to taste coffee, pull every batch, every origin, get these, you know, I'll have to get more coffee cups, but we'll get this thing up where I'll start like doing things like triangulating, like I'll put, you know, 3 unknown coffees and 1 counterfeit coffee and see if I can't pull that sample. So it should be a lot of fun. And the end result should be a much, much better understanding of not only how coffee flavor works, but just all the different dynamics that coffee tasting can kind of bring to this world. Okay. I'm feeling I can smell the dark chocolate in this. It's very, very robust. Try to see if I can't get some when I crack the crust here. It's almost like caramel. So there's So far, I've been able to pick up a little bit of nuttiness, some caramel, and then when I take it outside, yeah, there's the bittersweet seems to be the dominant aromatic in this. And this is, I'm just trying to remove any large pieces of coffee grounds, as that will affect my understanding of the clarity of the cup. My twitching has been a little off lately, but I always like to stop by and just see what everyone else is up to. We gotta let this cool down, simply because it's not good for flavor testing in coffee to go at it anything above 160 degrees. And I have really, that's another thing I gotta start training myself and being more vigilant about, is I started drinking coffee pretty late. I was about 28 years old when I started drinking coffee, and I started putting Folgers grounds in a Keurig reusable. Because one of my colleagues had it, and that's like, I just needed some caffeine. I just quit drinking soda, and that's what I went to. I didn't stay on that train very long. I got off it relatively close. But when I was drinking that Folgers coffee, I trained myself to drink it super fast. And now, even though I drink, the high end, the good stuff, and I drink all my coffee black, I still am prone to want to drink it when it's hot. It's become almost automatic, and it's not good for your esophagus, and B, it's just not good for tasting flavor. But I'm not a coffee snob. I even enjoy instant but dark. I mean, coffee is a culture, and in any culture, there's no right or wrong way. I think I kind of delved into snobbery because I drank coffee black for so long that I was just constantly looking for a better cup of coffee, and it slowly started pulling me deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. I'm also a teacher, so there's always time in the day to enjoy a cup. It kind of brings me back to base one. Yeah, enjoying it at the right temp, and if it's good coffee, it should get better as it cools. Like that's a sign of really high-end fresh coffee, is that as it gets closer to room temperature, and a lot of the evaluation continues on until the coffee reaches room temperature. So you might not even be able to discover some of the more intricate acidities until the coffee is close to like 80 degrees. So when we start tasting, we'll continue tasting well into it getting cold, and you'll kind of see as I switch gears and move over to the roasting side of things a little bit later, you'll still kind of see me going and pulling sips of the coffee, because it allows me to see how the coffee's moving. But we're probably good. I can take a quick sample sip here. Now, I will warn you, it is a very there's a lot of expectorating, because your olfactory nerves are up here, and there's a soft palate of skin, and when it contacts that permeable palate up by your olfactory, you can actually get some of your olfactory bulb can be triggered. Some of the neurons in your olfactory bulb can be triggered, thus allowing you to enhance your flavor. Because like all things, coffee is 90 to 95% smell. So although you only have 5 basic senses, in your tongue, you have 20,000 different olfactory receptors that can really draw out the nuances. So one part to training yourself to really being able to pick out different things is making sure you're getting it in that olfaction site. And like any great skill, mindfulness is important. So along with practicing this while streaming, I also do it sometimes when I'm just in a quiet room, don't really have like all of the streaming equipment on. I need to like create like a sensory deprivation tank to do some of my senses. But as with the competitions, you're going to have to kind of be on. So this is also good training. So cheers. Let's see, just bring it up. Okay. So this Mexican coffee, it's kind of easy to get in the weeds. Very, very bittersweet. But there is a good sweetness. It wraps around where you instantly taste that kind of that very coffee flavor, that crowd pleasing. This is what coffee should taste like flavor. It's super smooth. But then as it kind of comes around, a nice presentation of caramel. So caramel and chocolate are two of the real big tasting notes here. And then it kind of wraps around. Not much acidity in this roast. I'm going to see as it cools if there's any kind of sparkling acidity. I may search out. There might be some effects in how like the mouthfeel works. I know that sounds kind of pretentious, but acidity can like affect your mouthfeel. There are several different acids. Some coffees, depending on the region, not really, more like Kenyans, Rwandans, they have a higher content of like sulfuric acid that can kind of taste a bubbly taste. So not only is acidity some of that, you know, the fruitier tastes or those astringent tastes like vinegar, but there's also mouthfeel that you want to investigate. Very nice. So here we go. Okay, good note. Again, bittersweet. This one I can already, as it cools, I can already start tasting almost just like a twinge, like kind of creates like a little bit of that fuzzy mouthfeel, like when you bite into a Granny Smith apple. So there's definitely a little bit of acidity playing on it. Again, the bittersweet is creating a chocolate flavor, and it's kind of backing it up with a little bit of that caramel. That caramel is going to be the aftertaste in this coffee. I may try to search to see if there's like any like spice notes or something laying inside of that caramel. I think there might be like some vanilla, like a vanilla bean flavor in there, kind of chilling around. Coffee's so strong the tongue tingles. Yeah, I mean, the acidity in coffee, if it's fresh, is always going to be the biggest driver of the flavors, of really the uniqueness of coffee. So this is our Panamanian. And just a much different experience. This Panamanian, first thing I noticed is that there was an acidity, but it was an acidity paired with sweetness, almost like a peach or an apricot. Kind of gave me that feeling of when you bite into a peach, and then it kind of settled down and it really moved itself more to a chocolatey flavor, which I would expect with a Central American coffee. So it moved over to a chocolatey flavor, but almost like a peachy sensation. Much lighter, not as much body. So there's more of a tendency for it to kind of, the overall mouthfeel kind of is a little bit waning. It's a little bit juicier. There is an aftertaste that almost tastes, it's almost, like I said, it's almost like a vanilla caramely aftertaste in there, but definitely juicier, a lot easier to drink. Like doesn't have the body of coffee, so it's easy drinking, very relaxing cup of coffee. Lo and behold, it's a medium. It's a light medium coffee, so there is less body in the coffee by the way that I roasted it. But that is pleasant. It's very pleasant, very juicy, very distinct. So the distinguishing characteristics here is that really that back tone. I think with the Central Americans, I'm starting to notice there's a lot of that caramely backtone, and I think what the reason for that is that the overall density of Central Americans is relatively high, and that usually means there's more carbohydrates to extract these flavors from. Now, both these coffees I did do a little bit of roast manipulation on to stretch out the pre-development phase to try to extract as many of those glucose, sucrose flavors from the carbohydrates, and it's really starting to create like a backstop that has a very unique flavor. So what I want to do next is, next time I do a tasting, I want to get like an Oceania coffee, maybe even an African coffee and a Central American coffee, and see if I can't start to further pinpoint what are the unique characteristics that these regions are kind of all stapled into. I'm gonna do a couple more, and then as I set up, I'll keep doing some tasting. See that? Just as it cools, it just gets a nice little body to it. I'm excited for this Panamanian. I think as it cools, it's going to only get better. Yeah, really good body, super smooth, very clean cup. There's not a lot of earthiness in it, kind of choking it up. Nice coffee, really good coffee. This might be pretty good together. That's really nice as it cools. That peachiness has blended with a little bit of body. The caramel now is just intense. It's just really just some unique, just fun coffee to drink. I'll have to go back and look at the bag and see how close I got with some of these flavor notes. So I'll keep chasing that around, but now, whew, that was a trip.